Can we grab you?
Sure. Oh,
Terrific.
Yeah.
8 years.
I want it. I want it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I do. Oh, no.
You should say that on the air.
I will.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet hope, Chicago. 2 is 4, 4 4 6. Come on, baby, now get your business fixed. Come on, honey, don't you wanna go?
Hi, I'm Marti Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Avi Meyers here, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine. Welcome. We want to thank my entire technical crew, not to mention the hero of both Rabbis Hersh, Rabbi Moskowitz, and Lubavitch Girls Everywhere, SunnyUrge. And it is a pleasure to introduce you to our next-door neighbor, somebody who has graced the show. And as a matter of fact, look at the beginning of the show. I've still got his face there for 1.2 seconds. The Alderman of the 49th Ward, Joe Moore. How are you, Alderman?
Avi, good to be here.
First of all, a pleasure to have you, and thank you. And first, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about how I almost fell over backwards in my chair when I was watching McLaughlin. And, the McLaughlin show on Channel 11, and all of a sudden I see your face there and national issues. I mean,
I fell over, too, when I heard about it.
But, you've got the immortal Pat Buchanan, Nixon's speechwriter, talking about you.
A rare coalition of Joe Moore and Pat Buchanan.
Yeah, actually, he was not he seemed to favor your ban, by the way.
That's right.
He thought it was a good idea.
And what we're talking about, of course, is the ban on the sale of foie gras in Chicago restaurants and stores that the City Council just voted on a little while ago and will go into effect in August.
Okay, tell us why you're doing that.
Well, a year ago, I didn't even know what foie gras was. Someone told me I had it at a dinner one time, but I didn't remember. But it came to my attention when there was some press coverage when Chef Charlie Trotter, the renowned Chicago chef, announced that he was no longer going to have foie gras on his menu. And what foie gras is the fatted liver of a goose or a duck. And the reason he wasn't going to have it on his menu anymore is because of the method by which that product is produced. And with all the press coverage over his decision not to carry it, I was shocked when I discovered how this product was produced. It's produced by basically taking a steel rod and shoving it down the throat of the duck or the goose and pouring feed down into their gullet to the point where after a 1 month period of time of doing this, and it's done 3 times a day, 7 days a week, when the liver's expanded to about 10 times its normal size, then they slaughter the duck. And what veterinarians say is it creates quite a great amount of pain for the creature, to the point of it amounting to cruelty, to torture. And I felt, given that fact, that we should take Charlie Trotter's self-imposed ban and expand it citywide. Culturally, our culture does not condone the torture of innocent creatures. And I felt it's simply an extension of our cultural beliefs that we should pass a law that would forbid the sale of the product of that torture in Chicago restaurants and stores.
I think it's a nice idea. One thing I'll tell you from a Jewish standpoint, and I'm not a rabbi, guys, even though everybody thinks I'm a rabbi because I wear this thing, but there's a lot of things that we can't eat, basically because of the way animals are mistreated. You won't find the cows that we eat injected with the hormones or being fed their own brethren reground up, or their waste products. You also won't find white veal in any kosher store because we don't believe in penning in animals like that and starving them and depriving them. Doesn't mean we won't eat veal, but we have veal. It's red and they were raised normal. You can't do it otherwise.
And I'm a meat eater. I believe there's nothing wrong with raising animals for food, for human beings. But it's one thing to slaughter an animal, quickly kill them for food, and it's another thing to torture them for a month and then kill them, particularly for a product that is not required for for human sustenance.
Yeah, and I'm not an animal lover either from that standpoint. But I've actually, being a TV Food Network fan, I've seen the way they really force that thing down their throat, and they grind that food right down their throats.
And I'm not, I don't have a history of being an animal rights advocate or anything, but it just really appalled me, and I felt, yes, are there other grievous acts that occur against human beings? Of course, there's crimes that occur every day against other humans that are horrible. But just because there are greater wrongs doesn't mean that we can't take a moment of our time to also outlaw a secondary wrong and to stand up against the torture of innocent creatures. And that was the purpose of me introducing that ordinance, and that's why the City Council passed it by nearly a unanimous vote after they found out what was involved with the process.
It's well put, and I'm in your corner on this one, and I do think there'll definitely be some restaurant downtown, maybe Rick Tremonto's, well, he's under too much scrutiny because of it, but somebody's going to have a black market for foie gras in the city, the way anything becomes illegal. But you know what, let's talk about, first of all, I want people to know, you're next door, but what are the boundaries of the 49th Ward?
Well, primarily I represent the East Rogers Park community. I border on Evanston on the north, the lake on the east. On the west, I go as far west as Western, north of Toohey, and as far west as Ridge, south of Toohey. And my southern boundary kind of zigs and zags, but I go as far south as Granville at some points.
Granville, okay, very good. I just want to make sure people know. Now, you and I also, first of all, I want to tell people that I'm very sorry to see Angela Caputo, who no longer is with the Pioneer News Star. She's going on to the Daily Southtown, where we want to wish her all the luck in the world. But she wrote an article where you and I were both quoted, and something that I happen to very much agree with the things you were saying, and that is the administration of CAPS. And let me just say first that I think neither one of us are talking about the CAPS program itself, because I'm a big supporter of CAPS. I'm a beef facilitator. You were one of the very early people before there was a CAPS that stood up and wanted there to be a CAPS and a strong CAPS,
yes,
meaning community policing. But the CAPS administration is different than that.
Right. Well, there's an office called the CAPS office in the city of Chicago, and it's sort of the civilian arm of CAPS, which is, the CAPS is the acronym that City of Chicago uses for community policing, whereby we get the police and the community residents working together to come up with creative solutions to our public safety issues. And the CAPS office is supposedly supposed to be there to help encourage citizen participation in the CAPS program, to get people to come to the beat meetings where they meet with their patrol officers, to get community involvement around a whole set of police activities. And I think both you and I have expressed some concern that we don't see a whole lot emanating out of the CAPS office. And there are a number of employees who are paid very good salaries, and yet, certainly in my ward, all the activism, all the encouragement comes from the community or from my office, and we see very little of CAPS in my community, the CAPS office, that is.
As a matter of fact, I think, because I know these people too, and I admire a lot of them, they do this despite the CAPS office in many cases. I mean, I will say that in terms of people like Meg Gilman and Bart Moy, I happen to like them. They work in the district office. They're not bad. They're not downtown. Our local CAPS help is non-existent from my standpoint. Non-existent. I've asked them things. It doesn't happen. I stopped asking. I don't even bother. But in terms of downtown,
well, particularly in this time of tight budgets and laying off civilian police employees, just a while ago, the clerks or the aides, the police aides that were supposed to do the administrative tasks, so we free up police officers for street duty. Those positions were eliminated, thereby taking officers off the street and doing paperwork. You're cutting back those positions, and yet this CAPS office has this whole slew of people, some of whom make nearly $100,000 a year, perhaps more. I think the director might make more, who are producing very little product, little, if any, product. And you're wondering, what is the story here?
Well, as a matter of fact, my beat meeting was last week. I meet, and I am one of the few people that got the newest directive from downtown that we had to follow. And we're talking about Vance Henry, who I really would like to see replaced. That's just my opinion. But we were told that we have to sit in a circle. Now, I'm a graduate of Columbia College, and that was in the days when you could smell Columbian in the hallways of Columbia College. Sometimes the teacher wanted us to sit in a circle, and it was kind of cool. We knew each other. Now, these are strangers. It's hard enough to get people to come to a CAPS meeting in the first place. Now they sort of have to be in this circle thing, which, you know what, if we want to decide a circle ourselves, that's fine.
Sure.
But this is sort of like being told, you must sit in the circle. These are your orders. We don't, it doesn't work that way. Not to mention we have Orthodox Jewish people that don't like mixed seating. Some of the Muslim women and maybe even some of the Hindu women also would be reluctant to want to sit in a mixed seating situation. And I saw some of them come into the meeting, kind of gulp and take a step back.
Well, that's...
I know it's minor stuff,
but it's indicative of what this office is doing. Rather than concentrating on going out, doing the hard work of knocking on doors and getting people out to come to these meetings, they're concerned about seating arrangements. It's silly. I know, in going to some of the CAPS meetings in my neighborhood, the room literally would not permit. It's not large enough to have people sitting in a circle or anything. The whole point of CAPS is allowing the community to have some control and self-determination. Let the community residents decide whether they want to sit in a circle or sit in classroom style or what have you. And let's move on to more serious issues, which is what can we do to come up with creative ways of solving some of our persistent public safety and social disorder concerns.
I agree, and I like the idea that maybe some of these jobs should be converted into more officers on the street.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Now now we've talked about the things I wanted to talk about. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I think we raised one legislative initiative that I was successful in, and let me talk about another one that I think we're very much on the verge of getting passed in the City Council. A landmark piece of legislation that will require any big box store, any store of 75,000 square feet or more in size, to pay their employees a living wage. And what we mean by that is a wage of at least $10 an hour and provide at least $3 an hour equivalent in benefits. And that would be directed to those stores like Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Kmart, Costco, all those stores. And the reason we're targeting them is what we have found is that a number of stores, Walmart and first and foremost,
which, by the way, I will not patronize them at all.
They are slashing wages and benefits in order to remain competitive, and the other businesses, the other stores, in order to remain competitive, are doing the same thing. Well, we can't have Walmart and those other big guys lead the race to the bottom. We need, since federal government and state government has been silent on the issue, the municipal government has to come into play and say, we're going to set a floor beneath which nobody can go. We're doing the same thing that governments did 100 years ago to set wage and living standards for people in manufacturing industries. Well, those jobs are gone. And now we have a new force in the economy, and that's the retail and service sector. And we need to step up to the plate to ensure that the employees in those sectors of the economy are also paid a wage that they can at least have a fighting chance at supporting their family. And that measure is going to be passed in the City Council, hopefully by the end of the month, and we will be the first city in the country to pass a living wage ordinance for big box retailers. And just as we were the first city in the country to pass a living wage ordinance 8 years ago that required anyone who does business with the city to pay their employees a living wage. And a living wage is defined that which you need in order to lift a family of four above the poverty line. We're not talking about anyone getting rich making $10 an hour.
No,
we're just
not even close.
Making sure that they have a fighting chance to stay out of poverty.
I think that's terrific. Well, okay, as far as I'm concerned, you're 3 for 3 today, but Mickey's hands say we're running out of time here.
All right.
So I want to thank you very much. If people want to contact your ward office?
They can, two best ways to reach me are, best ways through my website, ward49.com. You can also call us at 773-338-5796. That's 773-338-5796.
I want to thank very much my guest, Alderman Jerome Moore. I want to wish you luck with the foie gras. Well, you won't be eating any. And,
and it's already passed, so we've already got that on the books.
Yeah, the CAPS administration, 100% behind you there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stay in touch with you on that, because whatever I can do to help you to get things to be reasonable, even if they still have to exist, at least make them somewhat active in our, which ain't going to happen.
Your show is a great medium for getting the word out, because I know there are a lot of people that watch you and follow your show.
Thank you.
And this is a great way of getting the word out and getting people to call their alderman and insist that we provide for more accountability in caps.
Thank you, and I'm also all for the living wage. And I have never walked in a Walmart, will never walk in a Walmart until they start doing things like that. And you can ask some of my friends who say, "Oh, can I pick this?" No, you can't. Okay, thank you very much, Alderman Joe Moore, 49th
Good to be here.
Ward. Thank you.
Okay.